please join me in welcoming to the stage Ben Utecht.
I just want everybody to see the difference in size between an NFL player and an average human being. Jeff, thank you so much. Thanks for everything that you do. Awesome. How y'all doing this morning? Good? Man, I'm so excited to be home. Why do I say home? Because we lived in Franklin, Tennessee for 3 years, and I miss it. I can't wait to come back to Franklin, Tennessee someday. It's in our life plan, so really looking forward to that. Thank you so much to Delta Dental, and thank you, Samaritan's Feet, for making the connection here. It's so awesome what you guys are doing, and it's incredible to see what we're doing with the Special Olympics. So thank you so much, and thank you to Jeremy at cityCurrent for giving me the opportunity to come here and share my story with you today. You know, Jeremy made it very clear that he wanted all of you to have a true NFL experience today. So after the event, if you want, I will hit you as hard as I possibly can. Okay? Don't worry, Delta Dental is providing mouth guards for every single one of you, so you will be okay. Just kidding. We don't want any more concussions, trust me. Trust me. Probably the most important thing about the journey that I've been on is that I'm a family man. And the good Lord in all of his wisdom felt it necessary for me to be blessed with 4 daughters. Pray for me. Please, y'all pray for me every single day, seriously. But they are the most amazing women. And they take care of me. They are all daddy's girls. For example, usually when I come home from speaking, traveling, I come home and they've got a care package for me, a gift. And you would have noticed in the promotional material that recently I had a full beard. Well, I came home from a speaking trip and I walked into my bathroom and there was a package for me next to the sink from all my girls, and I thought, oh man, I'm just so blessed. I'm so blessed to be a father to these 4 incredible girls. And I began opening the package, and then I pull out of the package a Just for Men beard coloring kit. What? It's like, Dad, you're getting old. So I decided to take it off. Okay, too many gray hairs. But these girls have been amazing, and I've learned more about myself as a man being a father to these incredible girls and to my wife. It has been a week, y'all. It has been a week. The book launched last week, and within the first couple of days made it to number 2 on Amazon, only behind Bill. Thank you. Only behind Bill Belichick's book. Because more people want to read about a 24-year-old girlfriend than they do culture. So go figure. But we beat him in the AFC Championship, so he can have the book. No big deal. No big deal. Any chance I get to talk about the power of chosen culture, I take it. It's hard to put into words what it's like to be inside a locker room with some of the greatest players that have ever played in the NFL, let alone one of the greatest coaches to have ever coached in Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was the first to win a world championship built upon what's called servant leadership. His belief was that if you build better men, you get better football players. And he taught me that culture does not have to be subjective. Culture is something that every single organization around the world talks about, but very few know how to actually work it. And so Tony Dungy was the first to show me that culture can be an objective tool, an objective shared belief system that can turn into a transformational culture. I'll never forget when I walked into that first team meeting room. Peyton Manning is sitting a few seats to my left. And Tony comes into the room and he says, "Men, look, we're here to win. We're here to win. My job as a coach is to make sure that you're successful. But more importantly than that, I'm here to build a family. And the acronym for family in football is forget about me, I love you. If you're sitting in this room today and your entire identity is wrapped up in a sport, you've completely missed the purpose of your life. I had never heard anything like that in football out of a coach's mouth. Football is a sport where they break you down, they put you back together, they demand conformity, or you're not going to play. And my first experience with Tony Dungy had nothing to do with football, but everything to do about the purpose, significance, and value of my life as a human being. And I remember just sitting there looking around the room and, is this normal here? You know? And Peyton is nodding his head. He's bought in. And he completely transformed that organization because of the practicing of a chosen belief system. It was such a blessing and an honor to be in that locker room surrounded by people that had bought into this system, and to begin to learn that you will always have a culture by design or default. You will always have a culture by design or default. Why is that? Out of organizational psychology, Dr. Edgar Schein, also known as the godfather of culture, defines culture as the espoused beliefs, assumptions, and artifacts of a community. Every culture around the world comes out of the foundational beliefs, the assumptions of those beliefs, and the symbols of those beliefs in order to create culture. What you believe directly affects how you behave. So if that's true, you will always have a culture by design or default. So why not design it? Why not design it? Why not see culture as a product, not the soft skills of business that we've been taught, but why not see it as the most metallic product that we have to build our revenue, to improve our operations, but most importantly, to transform our people. So what I want to do for you today is just kind of take you on a journey into the locker room of the Indianapolis Colts and show you how this was made into an objective system, but more importantly, show you how when you practice chosen culture, not only are you going to have a radical impact on the organization, but how you're actually going to transform every single person that come in contact with the brand. The Champion's Creed is significant because a creed means beliefs that drive the behaviors and actions of people. And so it was February 4th of 2007. There was a cool Miami, Florida mist filling the Dolphin Stadium for Super Bowl 41. It was one of only 2 Super Bowls in the history of the NFL to rain. And when you're losing in the rain, it sucks. It sucks. Because all of the mud and all of the water gets in all the wrong places. And it's uncomfortable. But when you're winning in the rain, it's amazing. Because you're in the backyard with all of your friends, and it doesn't matter where any of the mud goes, where any of the water goes, you're out there having fun. Prince played at halftime. Prince sang Purple Rain in the rain. Okay? You can't ask for a more miraculous performance. And if you haven't seen it, you need to go back on YouTube and watch. He walks out on stage in the rain with an electric guitar, which was like, you don't do that, right? And he just absolutely crushed it. I'll never forget, I was in the tunnel with the rest of the team, and the refs were holding back the Colts. And we were waiting for the signal. Finally it came. And the ref dropped his hands and he released the Colts. And we came flying out of that tunnel. And my foot landed on that freshly cut Bermuda grass. And all of a sudden I heard this familiar voice start crying out my name. Ben! Ben! And it was my dad. My dad had fought his way halfway around the stadium to find the perfect position along the railing coming out of the tunnel. And I look back, and there he is in the most awkward yoga position that I'd ever seen. His leg was way up in the sky, and he was reaching down. And wouldn't you believe in that moment, I shooed my dad away like a pesky fly. I was like, Dad, this is not the time. I'm about to go on the field. This is the Super Bowl. Not right now. And I took one more step onto that field, and it was like the fist of God just sucker punched me. Stopped me in my tracks. And I heard this inside voice say, go back to your father. Go back to where it all began. I'm so glad that I heard that voice, because I turned and my dad had started to walk up the stadium stairs, and I cried out, Dad, Dad. And he heard my voice. And he came back and he got into that same yoga position, reached down, and you guys, it was like a movie. And we grabbed hands, and to be completely vulnerable with you, just completely lost it. Right? I'm holding my dad's hand, and I look up into his eyes, and I just say, I love you, Dad. It all started with you. And it did. It started with my dad. Back in Rochester, Minnesota, where I was born, and we'd be in the backyard, and I have memories of him being on his knees, and he would allow me to run into him as a 4-year-old kid with all of his might, and he'd pretend to get blown up and fall back on the grass. It all started with my dad. And my dad had a creed that he instilled within my life that I have applied over the course of my career. My dad was a Methodist pastor for 50 years. And so the teaching of identity was really important in my family. But he started with believing that you have to play for something bigger than yourself. And this will be different for everybody in the room. But for my dad, it was honor God. Because I believe playing for a purpose bigger than yourself produces greatness. Right? When you play for something bigger than yourself, you raise the bar beyond any human possibility. So where does the value and significance come in what you're doing? And how can that increase your opportunity to improve? Ben, work harder than everyone else, because I believe hard work develops talent and character. Ben, never, ever stop improving, because I believe there's always somebody right behind you. And Ben, most importantly, have fun. Have fun. Because I believe if you don't love it, then what's the point? I wanted to just share that with you because I know every single one of you in this room has been impacted by similar beliefs over your life. If you stop and pause and you think about your teachers, your coaches, your parents, your grandparents, your friends, I'm sure you can think of non-negotiable beliefs and values that have driven you towards being successful in your careers, right? Belief is universal, and it's something that connects every single one of us in the room. And when we find alignment on that belief, there's nothing that we can't accomplish, especially building the foundation of a successful culture. And it all comes down to purpose. It all comes down to purpose. The ultimate goal of culture is to pour purpose into people's life. If you create a workplace culture that increases purpose, that increases individual value, that increases the significance of every single person who comes to work every day, you enhance commitment, devotion, loyalty. You increase their ability to perform and ultimately drive the bottom line. Purpose is essential. We have to make culture memorable. It has to be something where when you go around the workplace and you ask people, hey, define culture in our organization. Imagine if every single person in the organization could say, yes, culture is what we believe, why we believe, and how we choose to behave. Finding that alignment in the foundational definition of your organization's culture is essential, right, to creating the type of team that you want to be working together every single day. And you have to believe that practicing culture wins, right? Simon Sinek is going to tell you it's about the power of why, and the power of why is so important because why gives clarity, it gives meaning. But the secret sauce to culture is practice. You all know in this room that business is transactional in nature. All that matters is what we do. All that matters is what we do. It's very interesting when you start to actually look at the numbers in the NFL. For every 280 hours of practice, an NFL player will play 1 hour of performance. Think about that. 280 hours of practice for 1 hour of performance. When you actually break down an NFL game, there are 65 to 75 plays on average. Each play lasts about 6 seconds. If you're a starter and you never leave the field, you're actually only playing between 9 and 11 minutes of football in a 3-hour NFL production. Isn't that crazy? Do you ever stop and think about that when you're watching the game? And yet you're practicing 16 hours a week for 9 to 11 minutes of performance. But that's why we love watching sports at the highest level, because it is a dedicated community of people that are devoting themselves every single day to becoming the best that they can. When you look at the Gallup polls about human development in the workplace, for every 30 to 40 hours of work, an employee gets 1 hour of leadership or human development. Massive contrast, right? So how are we actually going to start practicing the beliefs that drive our values so that we're developing our people towards the culture that we espouse? Practice is essential. I want to show you an example of what it looks like in real time. You all might remember what happened to Penn State University and Joe Paterno's legacy, right? That entire organization fell apart because of the behaviors and actions of coaches. And so the university needed to bring new talent in that was going to focus on building a culture of integrity and character, so they brought in James Franklin. James Franklin was dedicated towards the rebuilding of this legacy university, built on character, built on integrity. One of their non-negotiable beliefs was, no one will be a better sportsman than the Nittany Lions. Nobody will be a better sportsman. So one of the ways they practiced that was, at the end of every game, no matter what the score is, every single player will walk across the field and shake the hand of their opponent. So here they are, vying for a national championship against Michigan State. If they win, they go into the top 3 and have a chance at playing in the biggest game in the country. Well, they're upset with seconds left on the clock. And James Franklin, in that moment of losing that significant opportunity, notices 2 of his star players behaving in a way contrary to the culture at Penn State. And I want you to see how he responded.
And James Franklin livid about something.
How powerful is that? I mean, let that sink in for a second. This is in front of millions of people watching on television. 27-24, Michigan State upsets Penn State. Can you imagine being in that moment as a head coach, to lose that opportunity? Where would your mind be? Where would your heart be in that moment? And yet his was directed towards the behaviors of his players. And so on national television, he goes running after these 2 individuals and says, go back. You go back and you practice what it means to be a player of integrity and character. Ever since James Franklin has been brought back into Penn State, they have been in the top 10. When you're in the top 10, you get the most what? TV time. What does TV time equal in college sports? What'd you say? Revenue, money. Hundreds of millions of dollars brought back into that university because one man chose to build a non-negotiable objective belief system and hold his players accountable to practicing it. And has completely transformed that university. Culture matters. So what does it look like in business? We talk about it all the time, and it often feels like it's so far off in the distance. But in reality, it can be as simple as when you identify the belief and you identify the value, the next questions are, okay, how do we actually build a system of practice and then apply it? In Indianapolis, we had a number of those value principles. I want to just take you through two of them now. What does it mean to be a champion listener? What does it mean to be a champion language user or communicator? And it starts with going through the definition of culture. Culture is what we believe, why we believe, and how we behave. So in Indianapolis, we created a culture of listening, okay? What did we believe about listening? We believe that it's taking notice of and acting on what someone is saying or responding to advice or a request, making an effort to hear something and to be alert when hearing something and paying attention and then applying that. Why? Why is it so important to listen? Because we believe as humans that it's an innate desire to be heard and understood. Okay, so if I were to ask you the question, what's the most important part of an NFL offensive play that happens on every play that leads to a touchdown or a score? What's the most important thing that happens on every single play that ultimately leads to a score? Any ideas? Snap, super important. Play call? Huddle. I was going to say, where does the play call happen? Most of the time, it starts in the huddle, right? It's the huddle. How many of you during an NFL party have stopped the party and told everybody to shut up because I want to watch the huddle? Doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen because it's mundane. You don't even think about it. Even though the huddle is the epicenter of all communication, telling every single player exactly what they're supposed to do so that we have the greatest chance of success. It was so important in Indianapolis that our offensive coordinator, Tom Moore, built an objective culture of the huddle. And the objective culture in the huddle was stop, look, and care. Stop, look, and care. The minute Peyton Manning stepped into the huddle, everything stopped to give our leader the stage of speech. Look is the pursuit of information. It's active listening. We were actually evaluated on where we were looking in the huddle in our post-game evaluation sheets to hold us accountable. It's one of the reasons why we have a blue line on the top of the helmet, because you can't hide it. Look at every offensive lineman. Look at where the blue line is pointed, right? He went a step further in saying, I don't want you to just look at Peyton, I want you to actually look at his mouth. Because in front of 80,000 fans, you might not hear everything he's saying. So use multiple senses so you can see the words that he's forming with his lips. The only reason why Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison are exiting the huddle early is because all they needed to hear was where they were going to line up. And then, as you know, Peyton had his incredible audible system that he would do at the line of scrimmage. And that's where he would communicate with those individuals. But every single person, active listening, looking at Peyton. And then the last and most important is care. Care, the power of empathy in listening, right? Empathy is defined as putting yourself in the position of the person sitting next to you, right? If I don't care about the responsibilities of the tackles and the guards and the centers and the running back and the wide receivers, if I don't understand the responsibility that's on their shoulder and what they have to do, I'm never going to do my job to the best of my ability as a tight end. So I have to care. So stop, active selflessness, giving our leader the stage of speech. Active listening, pursue information. When people are talking to you, put your phone down, put your laptop down. When your kids are talking to you, put your phone down, put your laptops down, turn, look at them, engage. When you look at somebody, you tell them that what they are saying is important, right? And you increase instantly their value, significance, and purpose. So it's an example of a practical way that you can take a culture of a huddle and actually turn it into an objective system of stop, look, and care. What does your huddle look like in life? There they are, the controllers of my life, in the most awesome way, right? What does that huddle look like in life? Think about the people that are in your inner circle and that are closest to you, right? What does that culture of belief look like? Whether it's listening, right? Whether it's learning, right? We're able to apply this type of a system. How does it look at work? How does it look at work? What type of practicable systems are you creating that can help empower and hold each other accountable to values like listening? And it all comes down to humility and building team. We need to put others first in order to do a great job of understanding them, and team, total engagement that's aligned by all members, right? Because we're stronger together, right? What does it mean to be a champion language user, right? We believe that the principal method of human communication consists of words used in a structured and conventional way. Words matter. And it was so important in the Peyton Manning offense. You guys, it's so important. We believe in the language of Manning, right? Choosing the right words to communicate is the foundation of all information distributed. And it was no more important than in the Peyton Manning offense. Every week we would have a culture of language meeting where Peyton would walk in with his 4-inch thick Encyclopedia Britannica, and it was, nobody got that? Remember Encyclopedia Britannica? Okay, never mind. Okay. But he would walk in with this incredible game plan, and every single page would be filled with all of the code words and the hand signals. You have to understand every single run play, every single pass play, every single pass protection had 3 different code words for each, so that if the defense caught on to the first, we could go to the second. If it caught on to the second, we could go to the third. Every single run, every single pass play, every single, pass protection had 3 different hand signals, so that if the defense caught on to the first, we could go to the second, then we could go to the third. So it was absolutely critical for us to understand what every single word meant, exactly the way Peyton intended for us to, so that the transparency and clarity could help us do the best job that we could. Now, I want to take you through a 2 to 3 minute video clip here, okay? I'm going to test you a little bit. Listen to Peyton Manning in the huddle and see if you can figure anything out. Here we go.
We're going dice right, ice cream, alert, 654, Jose. Okay, 1-0.
Peyton Manning and the Colts run the NFL's most sophisticated offense.
255.
Each play can be called or changed at the line. That forces the Colts linemen to wait
Chocolate.
and wait until Peyton finally makes up his mind. I wonder if they ever think, just snap the damn ball.
Brown Richmond, 96 double. Check, what a flare.
His goal is not to get the perfect play, it's to get out of a bad play. And more times than not, they do that.
Peyton drops, looks, fire, touchdown, Reggie Wayne!
It's a ballet that drives people crazy. As you say, just snap the damn ball. They'll do it when they're damn well pleased.
Check. One left.
It started way back, kind of, I guess, around my second year with Tom Moore. We kind of sat down and just put some code words together and things that kind of made sense. But it has taken off from that.
That's right. Short ox. Richmond, Florida, Buffalo, 97 double. Louisville Soul Train. The purple, Buddha Raiders.
It's not about trickery.
Purple, Buddha Raiders.
But it does take constant communication.
Okay, he's lying. It was totally about trickery. Let's be honest. It was totally about trickery. And the Peyton Manning that you see and that you love, right, on television is exactly who was in the huddle. He loved to have fun, even in his code words and even in his hand signals. For example, as a tight end, one of our primary routes was called a dig route, 15 yards straight up the field, 90-degree angle across the middle of the field. And so what were the 3 hand signals that Peyton chose for the dig route? Well, he's either going to dig in his nose, he would dig in the front of his pants, or he would dig in the back of his pants. And so I would be on the line of scrimmage, and he would start to go to the audible system. And I'd look back at him, and he'd look down at me with this funny grin, and he'd go, telling me that I have to run a dig route. Thanks, man. I'm laughing while I'm running down the middle of an NFL football field. But words matter. Words matter. So let me break it down for you. In the huddle, he called Dice Right Ice Cream, alert, 654, Jose on nothing. Dice Right Ice Cream, alert, 654, Jose on nothing. That's a real play. That's a real play. But he threw one code word in that changed everything. Dice Right Ice Cream, alert, 654, Jose on nothing. What do you think the word was? Nothing. Nothing. The very last word at the end of the sentence. What nothing told us was that the play didn't exist. Nothing told us that he was going to try to draw the defense off sides. And so he was saying, guys, when we get to the line of scrimmage, don't move. The play's on nothing. Don't move. I'm going to do whatever I can to see what the defense is going to do. Right? Dice Right Ice Cream. You might have heard at the line of scrimmage. Chocolate, chocolate. Ice cream was our code word to remind us not to move at the line of scrimmage. So we would come up to the line of scrimmage, and we knew when he said ice cream in the huddle, he was going to give us any flavor of ice cream at the line of scrimmage. As a reminder, guys, settle in. Don't move. Let me work my magic. Chocolate, 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 chocolate. Alert. Alert was telling us that depending on what he was seeing, he could alert to the second part of the huddle call, which was 654 Jose. And the code word for alert at the line of scrimmage was apple. So if he came up to the line of scrimmage and that play worked really well, he would say, apple, apple. And that would tell us, okay, we're running the second play that was called in the huddle. Brown Richmond was what he began to call when he realized what they were going to do. He comes up to the line of scrimmage, chocolate, chocolate, guys don't move. Said, hut, hut. They don't jump off sides, but the safeties shift. Now they told the master chess player exactly what they were going to do. So now he goes into his audible system. Brown Richmond, he says to the offensive line, telling them exactly who they're supposed to block so he doesn't get sacked. Then he looks to the three receivers on the right. 96 right double. 96 right double, telling them to run 3 5-yard quick outs to the sideline. If they can't hear him, he's giving them the hand signal. Then he looks back to our running back, Dominic Rhodes. Flare. Run a flare. A flare is called a safety route. It's a wide bending route to the sideline so that if nobody's open, he can come back to that safety route on the sideline. And then just before he gets under All-Pro center Jeff Saturday, you might have missed it. He gave a little hand signal like this to Reggie Wayne. This is telling Reggie to run a slant route. 3 steps straight up the field, 45-degree angle into the end zone. All of this communication in front of him and to his right. Every single word telling every single player exactly what they're going to do. Never even looked out to Reggie, never said a word to him, but gave him a little hand signal just before the play clock. Said, hut. Safety shifted, left Reggie Wayne wide open. And that happened 65 to 75 times a game. Oh. Words matter. It was so incredibly important in our culture of communication that we developed a way of practicing it, and it was content, purpose, and delivery. Content, purpose, and delivery. What are you saying? Why are you saying it? And how are you saying it? So practical, so tactical, but effective when you communicate. And I promise to any of you in the room as leaders speaking to teams that you're managing, if you pause and if you make sure that you can answer these 3 questions before you head into a presentation, the amount of clarity and transparency that will come out of that will improve. Because your goal is to make sure that every word that comes out of your mouth is understood by the team in the exact way that you want it to. It's never going to be perfect, but we can always strive towards reaching that degree of communication. And that's what Peyton did and why he's one of the greatest. That's what it looks like when you don't communicate well. And we do, right? We don't communicate well. As a dad, if I don't do a good job of understanding what I'm saying, why I'm saying it, and how I'm saying it, like I should have never made that comment about Anna's Disney dress. Amy did not like it. It did not go well. But what does it look like when you speak and communicate well and you pour life into people, right? What does that look like in business when we actually do a good job of practicing a culture of communication that provides clarity and transparency, that removes uncertainty, and we end up building more trust with the people that we're working with, because words do matter. So be thoughtful and intentional in the language that you choose, and work hard to make sure that people are understanding it exactly the way that you want. And then make sure that you're lifting people up. Words breathe life into people. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have challenging conversations. It doesn't mean that we don't have to be bold. It doesn't mean that we don't have to hold people accountable, but there's always a way in which we can do that that allows us to also build people up. And that was something that I experienced in Indianapolis with Tony Dungy. Culture of purpose transforms teams. Okay, we talked about the acronym for family. We have the only Super Bowl ring in the history of football to have a non-negotiable belief engraved in the side of the ring, and it's the word faith. Right? It's the word faith. The acronym for faith in this belief was freedom for all individuals to trust and hope in each other. That was Dungy's ultimate goal in building a family. If I can get 53 of the most egotistical, powerful men on the planet to trust and hope in each other, I've just created the strongest team, the strongest unit that nobody can dismantle. And I do believe that that is what set us apart that championship year. We were the smallest team in the NFL, but I would argue we were the closest. And we would do anything for each other and anything for our coaches, not because we were afraid to fail, but because we felt valued and full of purpose, and our levels of trust and respect and dedication increased significantly. More importantly than even building teams in culture is that practicing culture transforms lives. This is the Uncommon Leader Award that I was presented by Tony Dungy. Peyton Manning actually won it the year before, so I'm in rare air with this award. But my first experience with Dungy and his culture was when I was coming out of college. I'll close with this story. My senior year, I had headed in as one of the top tight ends in the country. I was up for the Mackey Award, the nation's top tight end award, projected to go anywhere from the first to the second round, preseason All-American. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better opportunity. About 2/3 of the way through the season, we're playing our biggest rival, the Wisconsin Badgers. In the third quarter, I was told to run a corner route, and as I released on that corner route, I run about 12 yards up the field. In a corner route, you plant your foot and you run to the corner of the end zone. So I release, I get to my yardage, I plant my foot, and I turn to look for the ball. And all of a sudden, I hear and feel popping all across my lower abdomen. Pop, 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 pop. And then my legs stop working, and I crumble to the turf. But I caught the ball. I mean, still made a highlight out of it, right? Yeah, let's go. What had ended up happening is I actually tore the lower abdominal muscles from the bone on both sides. It was a pretty serious injury, you guys. I had to get carted off the field. And just in a moment, it was all gone. Just in a moment, it was all gone. We couldn't figure out what the injury was because the tears were so close to the bone, so on the MRI machine, you couldn't actually see the injury real well. So I went 2 months really undiagnosed. Went to the NFL Combine and later discovered that every NFL team red flagged me as too much of a health risk. So on the day of the draft, every single name was called except mine. Went from being possibly the first tight end chosen to not getting drafted at all. I'm driving up to my agent's office on a rainy Minnesota day, right at the end of the draft, holding back tears. I had earned my degree, but I had put all my eggs in the football basket, if you will. And I'm thinking it's over. 2 months before that moment, I had a chance to speak at a huge alumni event at the University of Minnesota. And I got to open for Tony Dungy. And I get up in front of 700 alumni. And remember, Tony Dungy was a gopher as well. So I get up in front of Tony Dungy and I say, hey, coach, he's right here. I say, hey, coach, if you really care about this university, if you really care about being a gopher, you're going to draft me in the upcoming draft. Everybody got a kick out of it, and he was gracious enough to respond. He came onto the stage, up to the podium, and he said, Ben, man, we would love to have you. We know how talented you are, but we drafted Dallas Clark in the first round last year, great tight end. And so we're not going to be looking for tight ends this year. And then he stepped away from the podium, and he put his hand on his chin as if he was being downloaded something. He came back to the podium and he said, you know what, Ben, I'm going to make a promise to you in front of all these people. If for some reason you slip through the cracks, if for some reason you don't get drafted, I promise you I'll be the first person to call. And everybody clapped and kind of went in one ear and out the other for me because there were still a number of teams interested. So fast forward 2 months. I'm walking into my agent's office. My name wasn't called. All that's left is the free agent market, the leftovers, the players that are usually brought in to give the veterans a break. And about 5 seconds after the free agent market opens, the phone in the middle of my agent's desk rings. And I pick it up. And who do you think it was? Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was the first person to call. And instantly I remembered that promise he made in front of 700 people. And it wasn't just Tony Dungy, it was our Hall of Fame general manager, Bill Polian. Head coaches and GMs are not calling free agents. And yet they called me. And they said, Ben, we didn't think this was going to happen. We want you to be a Colt. We have had experience with this injury before. So here's what we want to do. We want to send you to the top surgeon in the country. We want you to get better. We don't even want you to play the first year. Just heal. And we'll pay you as though you're a playing rookie. What? That's $250,000 to rest and recover. Oh, and on top of that, we'll give you a signing bonus. We'll give you a little signing bonus so that you know that we care. Are you kidding me? This is the NFL. What have you done for me lately? Nothing. I had done nothing for the Indianapolis Colts. The miracle in that is the next year I had recovered. Dallas Clark goes down in the last preseason game with an injury. So I have to start Sunday night kickoff versus Ray Lewis and the Baltimore Ravens. Oh my gosh. It's one thing to watch Ray on television. It's another thing to see him come out of the tunnel and do the dance and all the pyrotechnics and realize you have to block that guy for 3 hours. Well, actually, between 9 and 11 minutes. Let's be honest. But I had the game of my life. Third quarter rolled around. Peyton called a seam route on the backside. Their safety botched the coverage, left me wide open. Peyton saw it, hit me back shoulder, adjusted, caught the ball, turned. The safety had recovered. I lowered my shoulder, barreled through the safety into the end zone. Touchdown. Very first NFL game. And as I'm getting off of the turf and kicking the safety in the face, no, I didn't play like that. I didn't play like that, right? But as I'm getting off the ground, I realize it's Deion Sanders. So my very first touchdown was from an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback, and I ran through one of the greatest defensive players in history. And 2 years later, found myself on a Super Bowl championship field as a starting tight end, overcoming the Chicago Bears 29-17. None of it happens without one man practicing a chosen belief system designed to transform people's lives. Okay? This is the best part of business, friends. It's not the money. The best part of business is the opportunity to positively impact every single person that comes in contact with your company. Right? And when you practice a shared belief system, that's driven towards reflecting the values that identify your culture, right? Not only will you increase the bottom line, but you will transform people. And that's what it's about. This is the picture that was taken right after we won the Super Bowl. Tony came in and asked all of the media to put their cameras down. I'm so glad one disobeyed. Not that that's a value principle we would espouse, but I'm so glad because it captured what was so special about this team. This is something we did at the beginning and end of every single game. And as you'll notice, there's no plastic around the lockers. We're not popping champagne bottles. It just wasn't Tony's style. At the beginning and end of every game, we came together as a family and we just gave thanks. And the Lombardi trophy is sitting here right in the middle of the table, right? And that's what made this team different. That's what made this team different, was defining an objective culture that together we could practice to become champions. And so the commission for you is, can you be the champion for your culture? Can you not just talk about it, but actually see it as a product, as a tool that is going to have a huge impact internally, client-facing, and ultimately in the community to transform lives and to also make your business successful. So go out, choose to be a champion for your culture. Thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
I mean, we just did one more round of applause. That was so good. Thank you guys.